I was looking for a quick fix. I want to look great in my wedding suit and wedding day. Can you guys get me fit in 3 to 6 months? And that was very naive of me. This was probably the hardest that I pushed myself during my 3-4 years with RNT now. It was incredible. I had this amazing fitness transformation photo shoot. And at the same time, I finished my book. I think this new Prep Expert Digital SAT Playbook is the best book I've written. We've gotten some early reviews from students. They're really loving it. I did my book marketing and photo shoot and videos. And I would say the headshots look like I'm 10 years younger than the headshots that I did 8 years ago. It's just amazing how much younger, not only you feel, but you look. I feel like I'm sharper than ever. Everything has just been incredible. And I have you and RNT to thank for that.
Okay, so Shaan, let's rewind the clock. What must be probably nearly 4 years now. What were some of the trigger moments that led you to begin your journey right at the beginning with us at RNT?
Oh, yeah. So the beginning inspiration to join RNT was pretty vain. I wanted to get into good shape just for my wedding. And it was also pretty naive. I thought I reached out and I saw the amazing results, of course. However, not knowing a whole lot about fitness and lifestyle solutions at that point, I was looking for a quick fix. So I think I had reached out somewhere in the range of 3 to 6 months before my scheduled wedding date. This was the year of COVID, so my wedding got pushed back, but the original wedding date. And I reached out and I thought, hey, I want to, look great in my wedding suit and wedding day, et cetera. Can you guys get me fit in 3 to 6 months? And that was very naive of me. But, I think that you guys were very honest. RNT was very honest at that point and said, you're probably not going to get the results of what you're looking for, but we can get you started on that path. And so I took the leap at that point, and I'm so glad I did, because like you said, over 4 years, and you guys did put me on that path in 3 to 6 months. My wedding got pushed back, so I did look great and by the time my wedding rolled around, and it's just been going ever since.
And what do you think? You said you had a vain reason in the beginning. What was it? What was that drawn from? Tell us the deeper reason behind that.
Yes. So, it wasn't really about living healthy or being more active. It was really just, very vain. I knew that, having an Indian wedding, you're going to have 300-400 people there. They're all going to be looking at you. You don't want to have, the skinny fat belly. And so that was very vain of me, but still important. I think that vain kind of inspiration for me to get fit led me to now be healthy, have a lifestyle solution and all those things. So I think it's okay for those listening out there if you have a vain reason to inspire you at first. But I think eventually what you'll see is that this is so much more than just looking good for one day. It's about, feeling good mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually throughout the rest of your life.
Did you feel self-conscious or low in physical self-confidence before at that time?
I think so. Yeah, I definitely think so. I have without following diet and nutrition and, loads of social nights and just eating lots of bad Indian vegetarian food like paneer and malai kofta and naan and all that stuff for years. I think I ended up just having the kind of classic skinny fat physique. And I was pretty self-conscious about that. It's very hard. And I tried so many, quick fixes in the past prior to RNT to try to get rid of the belly fat, to try to build muscle. And none of it really worked. And so I was still kind of stuck, and I was finally reached out to RNT to find a solution. And I think it was clearly a life-changing decision for me.
What were some of the craziest things you did back in the day?
Oh, craziest things? I think I remember one time I think I did like 180 days or something like that. straight of just running. Like I think I ran or I did an elliptical for an hour, which was great cardio, but I never took any rest days. I was physically exhausted. And by the end of it, I had like no muscle because, I'd just done cardio. And then on top of that, like I hadn't lost all the belly fat, which was crazy to me because I lost like 20, 30 pounds clearly, but I was like, why is this belly fat just sticking here? And I could never figure it out.
180 days of running slash elliptical is no joke for an
Yeah,
hour.
yeah. It was physically exhausting, but also mentally exhausting. I mean, you need those breaks, you need those rest days. And that's what, and then, what happened after that is I just went right back to where I was before because it's unsustainable. And I think that's one of the biggest lessons I've learned from RNT is you have to have something that's sustainable. It's not some, 180 days sounds great, but like that's only 6 months. And so you don't want a solution for 6 months. You want it for, uh, you know, 50 years, basically.
When you were in your 20s and university 20s, what was your health and fitness like? And because you were very focused on your career, very focused on your studies during university, and I mentioned that because you got the perfect SAT score, and I can segue that in nicely into your book later on. But what was your outlook on health and fitness at the time? How did you value it? How did you view it?
Yeah, I didn't take it very seriously. I'd say I ate a lot of fast food. I ate out as much as possible, drank too much at university, et cetera, at parties and things like that. Obviously, I was very focused in my career and education. So like Monday through Friday was great, but like, having too many drinks at a party on Friday or Saturday, as a lot of university kids did, I'd say that, that took a toll on my body eventually. Um, and then on top of that, just being so focused on my studies with medical school, business school, et cetera, I'd say that I never really cooked or anything like that. And so I never meal prepped, cooked, ate too much fast food. And so that just resulted in this skinny fat body type after a while, because when you're so focused on studying, I think your release is socials where you're going to drink and eat on the weekends. And it just turns into this like vicious cycle. And even when you're studying, like you have no time to, or you feel like everyone has time. I shouldn't say you have no time. Everyone has time, but you feel like you have no time. So you just eat something quick and eat as much as possible till your belly is as full as possible, et cetera.
When you were going through medical school and then business school and then also building your company, did you view food and drink as like your vice and escapism?
I would say so. Yeah. I would say, when you're working 70 hours a week in medical school or 80 hours a week, sometimes building my business, what you end up doing, or what I would end up doing, not what everyone ends up doing, but what I would end up doing is, on a Friday night or Saturday night, you'd want to try to go to a good restaurant and have one too many drinks. And, that was your escape necessarily for a social night out. And so, but that takes a hugely negative impact on your physical and mental health, I would say.
Do you feel like looking back, it was why did it take so long for you to make that change or want to break that cycle? Because it's so easy for us when you are like a high speed, high performing individual. You can just keep going, 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 going until you have a trigger moment or a big warning sign. Why do you think it took the wedding for you to really make a drastic shift in your lifestyle?
Yeah, I think part of it was, you know, as I mentioned, it was the year of COVID 2020. And I think at that point, everything was shut down like in March of 2020. And that actually gave me a chance to, like you said, break from that cycle for a little bit. In that, I wasn't going into clinic. I was in residency at the time. So I wasn't going into clinic as a dermatologist. So I wasn't busy like 70, 80 hours a week. And what that did is it gave me an opportunity to kind of take a step back and say, maybe this isn't the best lifestyle for me on the fitness level. And, I was a really high achiever. I'm still a high achiever, very high achiever in terms of like academics, professionally. But what I wasn't a high achiever at was, fitness, my physical and mental health wasn't there. And so I really wanted to bring everything kind of in alignment. And so I think the only way that happened for me was actually because COVID gave me a chance to take my foot off the gas a bit and take a step back. And, not saying COVID is a good thing in any way, but if there's one good thing that came out of it for me, it was that I had a chance to kind of holistically look at my life and say, these things are not in alignment.
One thing you said to me that always sticks is you treat your physical health now and the art of the process of checking in and filling in the various data points as almost like a KPI review you would do with your business. And you say you schedule in time to like review business metrics, and then you schedule in time to read your body metrics and do your check-in. Talk about that process and also how you set up your organizational structure from a week perspective when it comes to getting things done and making sure you're still in alignment with your priorities. Because without knowing that aspect of your life as much, I take it you're a very, very organized person who has things very meticulously planned.
Yeah, I could say the same for you, Akash. But yeah, no, 100%. I think as I mentioned, one of the things that I've been kind of high achieving at previous to fitness was, my business and my career. And one of the reasons I think that in my business, which is a test prep educational company, we help students with SAT, ACT prep for college admissions in the United States. One of the things that's helped me be successful with that is reviewing like key performance indicators on a very regular basis. So I'll have weekly KPIs, I'll have monthly KPIs, I'll have annual KPIs. Some of them, I'm looking at personally and filling in. Some of them my employees are filling in and I'm looking at what they're filling in. And then we have dashboards and Google Sheets and all of these things. And, that has helped us be ultra productive, ultra organized, and it's helped us grow the business. So in the same vein, I think it's really, really important to track your quote unquote KPIs for fitness. And RNT does that in a really spectacular way. I think, I love the app that RNT uses to track your weight, track your umbilical circumference, track your photos from week to week, and then, the weekly check-ins. I think that works so well, those same principles to fitness as well as they do in business. And, just like I've been able to grow my business by tracking these KPIs and making sure they're getting better, I think I've been able to have my fitness get a lot better by tracking the fitness KPIs, if we want to call them that, whether it's weight, umbilical circumference, photos, et cetera, and other key data points, steps, huge one that I never tracked before RNT. And so, having all those KPIs, tracking them, making sure they're getting better, because I think when you're a high achiever, you always want to improve your KPIs, whether they are in business or fitness, et cetera. And so if you're making those incremental improvements week over week, I think that makes a huge difference. And, I know you and I talk about every week, like what optimizations can we make? And that's only because we're reviewing those KPIs on a week to week basis.
What are the what are the lessons have you learned from business that have applied to fitness? One person in a very similar vein from RNT said to me, when you talk about physical is the vehicle, he said, when I came on board, I flipped it and I thought to myself, I've done really well in business, so I'm going to use all my lessons I've learned in business to be a vehicle for my fitness. And I thought that was fantastic. What other lessons have you taken from the business, the academic, the prep, everything you've done with Prep Expert, and translated it into your RNT journey so far?
Yeah, I'd say there's a lot of analogies between business and fitness. So my company, Prep Expert, as I mentioned, test prep company, we do college admissions and education. So one of the things that I really do in my business that's very, very difficult to do is author books. And I know, Akash, you've authored books as well. And so when you're the author of a book, it's a very lonely journey. You're sitting with a manuscript all day. It's a very focused journey. You have to be very, very organized in terms of what you're writing, how you organize the content, speaking to your audience, et cetera. And on top of that, there's a lot of delayed gratification because, for example, my newest book, took me a year to write. It's a new digital SAT playbook for students for their digital SAT. And so it took me a year to write it. And I still haven't seen the rewards because I'm releasing it in March of 2024. And, that's a lot of faith that I have to put in to say, okay, well, I hope this book does well and I'll see rewards later, et cetera. So I say all those things because all of those things are analogous to fitness, right? With fitness, it's a very personal and sometimes lonely journey. There might not be as many socials. It's not something that your best friend is necessarily. It's nice to obviously have a coach and have people that keep you accountable. But at the end of the day, I mean, you've got to do the work and execute the work in fit, whether it's diet, training, et cetera. You have to be very organized. You have to, just like being an author, in terms of your diet and your training, your timing, et cetera. And there's a lot of delayed gratification involved, meaning that you're not going to see, muscle growth right away. You're not going to see the fat drop away right away. You will see it with incremental improvement, of course, but I think that there's been a lot of studies in terms of the most successful people, both in their careers and in fitness, can practice that delayed gratification and self-control. So I think that those would be some of the major lessons that I could see that apply both to business, authoring books, and fitness to have some of the key traits to be successful.
So for any of the listeners here, Shaan's been on this podcast before on episode 260. And in episode 260, we talked a lot about everything up to that point, which was probably around, that was over 100 episodes ago. So let's say it's over 2 years ago that you last came on the podcast. So if you haven't listened to the first part, I'd highly recommend checking out episode 260 so you can get a real deep dive into what happened into pretty much getting to the first checkpoint and probably a few months into muscle building. But using that analogy you've just given around delayed gratification, talk about the realities of a long-term muscle growth period, because you really committed to probably around 2 years of accepting that you're going to be fluffy, accepting that you're not going to be your leanest, and talk about the realities of that and how you practice should we just diet now, and playing the long game with it.
It's really hard, the muscle building process, because especially, being a physician, I've seen the cadavers myself. And, the fat just goes on top of the muscle, right? And so you have to believe that as you're getting fluffy and as you're building muscle, the muscle's under there. And it's not just belief, it because you're training and your lifts are getting, you're able to lift more, et cetera. But on the outside, especially not only to you, but to other people, whether it's your family, your friends, et cetera, you just look fluffier. You don't look more lean. You don't look more fit, et cetera. And, I had multiple people during that 2-year journey ask me, like, are you even working with a trainer? Like, are you even doing training? Are you, dieting, et cetera? Because they just thought that I was, gaining weight or gaining fat, I should say. And so that's really tough to hear, right? When you're working so hard, when you're training so hard, when you have good diet, and people are kind of writing you off thinking like, what are you doing? So it makes you feel sometimes like, oh, am I really doing the right path right now? Should we, like you said, should I just start dieting, et cetera? But I committed to it. And, I think I got quite fluffy. But at the end of the day, it was really, really cool to see what we did last year, which was in 2023, which the reward phase, when all that fluff came off and we did the fitness photo transformation shoot, to see all the muscle underneath that revealed itself was incredible. I mean, it's really interesting because everyone wants to get to that physique immediately. But I think what they don't realize is there is this phase where you're not going to look, super ripped, et cetera. And I think you don't even realize it until you do it. And I didn't realize it until I went through it. I was like, there's no way I'm going to be able to. At the beginning of the year, I was like, I don't know how I'm going to get there. But, as you know, we really put in the work and the effort over, especially during that transformation shoot, which I think was like 10 or 12 weeks. I can't remember exactly, but I mean, we were putting the grind on, and but it was so worth it at the end. Yeah.
It's really interesting. I think for everyone who does their first ever diet and thinks, you know what, I don't have enough muscle or feel a bit skinny, I think everyone in their life should go through one big building phase. And I remember my big one where I pushed myself to 200 pounds, and
Wow.
I was a trainer on the gym floor. So this is when I was in person, and another trainer's client said to the trainer, "Says Akash, what's happened to him? He's really let himself go." And when the trainer told me that, I couldn't believe it. I was like, I was training my hardest ever, I was most consistent ever. I've been so on point with my diet. The reality is, when you're really pushing that building phase, you don't look it, especially if your tendency, and we have this similar tendency, our tendency is skinny fat. So we just end
Yeah.
up looking like a bigger version of the skinny fat person we already were. And so it ends up
Yeah.
being, it's like your worst, it's the worst case, worst of both worlds. We're not the types that when we build, we just look like, you know, those big jack dudes.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
We don't get that look. We just get a big skinny fat look. So it's like the hardest thing. But it's so worth it, because on the other side, you've just got this body that you can keep you around with less and less effort. And that's something you'll find more and more as the years go by.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that's a really good point you bring up, which is like, especially if you're skinny fat, you got to go through this phase, and it's tough mentally. But what I will say is, when I did my first kind of reward and cut phase with RNT, I got skinny, but I just looked skinny. Like there was,
Yeah.
I didn't, I wasn't really, I was happy, but I was not super happy with the look because I didn't have a lot of muscle left. So this time when I did it, there was plenty of muscle to show still. I got that look that I think a lot of people want, definitely me. And that was only because I put on, those years of effort of the building phase, I think. And, I had enough muscle to stay around at the end of the cut that we did.
What made you? What would you? Sorry, what would you say to your friends and family when they did say to you, is everything okay? Are you dieting? Are you planning on dieting? What did you guys say back to them?
Yeah, well, I would have to explain it. I would have to, if they were, if they were a close friend or family member, I would explain it and say, yes, we're going to go to I would just say the cut phase, the reward phase, at this point, which I think we were planning to do it at the beginning of 2023 at that point. And, I'd say it won't be like this too much longer. And it wasn't, it was, the weight came off. I would say, yeah, especially the first couple months, the weight just kind of, came off pretty quickly, and I was looking back to normal, so people weren't too concerned. Obviously, if it was just an acquaintance, I would kind of not really explain it and just write it off. But yeah, if it was someone close, especially like my wife didn't understand at the beginning either, and but once I explained it, she kind of got it, and then once what's really funny is I think I had other friends you really just didn't believe that I would be able to take the weight off, because that happens to a lot of people, not in RNT, but in life, is they gain a bunch of weight and they're not able to lose it. And I would that kind of made me a little bit angry, because I guess those folks that said that thought that I didn't have the ability or the self-control to do that. But, I think they just don't have enough context about this is all kind of strategic, not necessarily I've let myself go,
And
etc.
did you always have confidence in yourself that you will get to your checkpoint?
Yeah, yeah. I think I had confidence that I would get to my checkpoint. I don't think I ever doubted it. I did doubt that I would be able to get as lean as I did. I was like, I don't know if that's going to happen again, because I've gotten really big this time. And I think I mentioned to you recently, I was like, I think I went too far. But I was relieved to hear from you that, you just need to push yourself to that limit sometimes. And, I don't think I'll do it again, but what I'd like to do is continue to build muscle in a sustainable way. But I think it was worth doing. And I think the results kind of show.
One question that I think we're curious for the listeners, especially any RNTs listening, is And at the start of 2023, you said to me, I want to get to this photo shoot, but I want to do it in as, you know, I'm okay going really slow. And I said, fine, we'll do that. And then after about 3, 4 months, I think you said, I think I'm starting to get a bit tired. I think I'm getting diet fatigue. What do you suggest? What do you suggest? And I said, look, I think taking a slow approach is potentially not the best thing to do. But if you wanted to keep doing it, we can. But just know these are the consequences. Talk us about talk to us why you wanted to take that approach, and then what you realized when you were going too slow, and then what changed when we decided, all right, let's go 2, 3 pounds a week or whatever the target is.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So I think, you know, I'm glad you let me try it for sure. But because I'm kind of one of those people that needs to like burn their hand on their stove on the stove and learn from their own experience, et cetera. But yeah, the thought process going into 2023 was, I went really slow with the build. Like I think we took a year or two, year and a half, something like that. And I was like, well, I'll just go slow on the reward phase and cut down slowly because that worked for the build. But what I realized is it's a lot easier to do the build slowly than it is to do the cut slowly because you're in a caloric deficit, right? And so when you're in a caloric deficit, you start getting more cranky, especially if you're working long hours or you need to be very concentrated. Your brain needs that glucose. And so it was just a lot more difficult. And what I will say is, especially when we did the fitness transformation shoot, we started going really fast. It was just, I was still, it was still tough mentally, but it was just nice to get those kind of quick wins each week where you would see the weight just come off. You could even see in some of the photos, like it was from week to week, or at least every 2 weeks, you would see big differences, which was really nice that you got more immediate. I guess it goes back to that concept of delayed gratification, which is you got more immediate gratification. And I think I'd say especially when you're doing either the fitness transformation photo shoot for the RNTers who are going to be doing that, or when you're first starting out, I think that those two things, getting that immediate gratification is really helpful. I think that, if there's nothing wrong with going slow, but you do get, and I did this happen to me, is you get fatigued in that caloric deficit because you're going for months and months and months, which, I think what I learned, what's a really nice thing about RNT and making it more a lifestyle solution is you hit your checkpoints and then you kind of switch, which is nice. Like I was so happy to switch to have more calories after the fitness transformation photo shoot because it is difficult. And, and I think you had told me after that, like eventually we just want to find a solution that works more long-term. And, I'll probably do another fitness photo shoot and then I'm kind of more mentally ready for that next 10 or 12 weeks, et cetera. So yeah, I don't know if I answered your question, but I just kind of.
Yeah, it's the mentality of get in and get out. When it comes to fat loss, don't delay it because the calorie deficit is going to weigh you down. It's going to tire you out. And also you miss the buy-in that really hooks you to want to push hard because the reality of going aggressive dieting is you're going to have to say no to more of your life. And because you're saying no to more of your life, you want to get that done as fast as you possibly can, but also have a real tangible result to show for the hard work you're doing. You don't want to be saying no to all this food if you're barely losing any body weight as it is. So it's just getting that buy-in internally to give you the momentum to go all the way.
Yeah, I think that's really well said.
Talk about the photo. Let's go into the photo shoot phase then. So Q4 2023, you said you're ready to flip the switch. We want to get this done before Christmas. So we agreed to really push hard. At the same time, you're also writing a book. You're coming to the end of your book. So you've got 12 weeks to your book, 12 weeks to a shoot. What did you learn about yourself in that process?
Yeah, I think that this is something that probably a lot of RNTers will learn about themselves, especially when they're pushing hard, both in their fitness realm and in their career or school, whatever they're in. So for me, from my experience, this was probably the hardest that I pushed myself during my 3-4 years with RNT now in terms of fitness. I was at an extreme caloric deficit. I was walking, I think it was like 15,000 steps at some point or something you had me doing, which was, a lot for me, especially because I was also, like you said, writing my book. So had to sit down, but then every hour I was walking, etc. Um, but what I would say is it was also one of the most like productive and efficient times for my business in terms of like curriculum development and book writing. I remember there were days I would write 12 hours a day. Like I would just sit Saturdays and Sundays, literally 12 hours. I would take a 1 hour lunch break and then walk every hour. And those days I was writing incredible content, super organized, on top of the fitness. And then I would hit the gym at the end of the day and give me a nice mental break, et cetera. So like it was absolutely insane. But what I would say is when I came out on the other side, it was incredible. Like, I had this amazing fitness transformation photo shoot. And at the same time, I finished my book, which was I think this new Prep Expert digital SAT playbook for students is the best book I've written. We've gotten some early reviews from students. They're really loving it. And so, I don't think that's coincidental that the hardest that I push myself physically is also and mentally, and I got the best results at the end of it. And I think the fitness probably contributed a whole lot to that. I can't explain all of the biomechanics behind, what chemicals were being released in my brain, et cetera. But I would say the result was incredible. And I'm sure there's other people with these stories. But the physical is definitely connected to the mental, and the work ethic was there on the other side. And like you said, you wanted to get in and get out. And so it was so nice to like for 10 to 12 weeks to just really focus in, not only on the fitness, but on the book. And then I think I told you I went to like the Dubai and Maldives and I got to relax a little bit, which was like perfect. But it was an incredible experience. And I'm so happy with like both results.
Yeah, you couldn't, if you wanted to do your best work for a book, you couldn't put yourself in a better environment. Yeah, like you said, biochemically, because
Yeah.
all hormones are firing on all cylinders. Your chemistry is firing on all cylinders. You've got a clear mind, no distractions, no junk coming into your
Yeah.
body. You're walking a
Yeah.
lot, which is such a good thing for writing, like idea
Yeah.
development and consolidation.
That's so true. Yeah. Like when I would take my breaks to walk every hour, I would get like great ideas to write on the book. I'm like, I got to write that down next, et cetera. And so they made the next hour just that much more productive, better content coming, curriculum, yeah, things getting organized. So it definitely contributed to the success of the book.
So what's your book all about then? Tell some of the
Yeah.
listeners it.
Yeah. I know you guys have videos sometimes, so
Yeah,
I'll
we do.
show
Yeah.
the copy. So it's called Prep Expert Digital SAT Playbook: Winning Strategies to Achieve Your Dream Score. Forwards by Mark Cuban, which is really cool. He invested in my company on Shark Tank. I think in the UK they call it Dragon's Den.
Yeah.
So I was on that in 2016. Made an investment deal with Mark Cuban, and my company. Basically, we've helped over the past decade 100,000 students improve their test scores, get into top colleges, win over $100 million in scholarships to go to college. And so for my book, well, the reason that I was working so hard on it, et cetera, the SAT, the college entrance exam for US colleges, it's going digital for the first time. And everyone says like, oh, so it just means it's on a computer now. No, there's like huge format and content changes that happen to the exam. So I had to revamp all my curriculum. And I'm sure you're the same way. When you have to revamp something, I really like, people are like, oh, well, why don't you just have one of your tutors do it or something like that? But I really like when I do it because it comes directly from the founder. And I try to put together the best. I really care in terms of putting together the best content, curriculum, et cetera, for my students. And so that's what I did with this book. It was a hell of a lot of work, as I mentioned, and I've been talking about. But I think the result is incredible. And so for anyone listening to this podcast, if you have a student, if you have a child who's in high school, who's interested in going to the United States, you can pick up a copy of Prep Expert's digital SAT playbook. It's available on Amazon. Or you can, if you're listening before Sunday, March 3rd, 2024, I'm doing a big book launch event for parents and students on how to ace the new digital SAT and win $100,000 college scholarships.
Amazing, amazing. Tell us about the Shark Tank experience. How was that, and how's that helped you?
Yeah. The Shark Tank experience was incredible. What was really interesting and kind of funny, it ties to the book. So, you know, I went on Shark Tank because I was basically just a fan like everyone else who watched Shark Tank and Dragon's Den, especially in like 2015, 16. This was, dating like 9 years ago. And so I auditioned for the show. And, I stood in line in New York City with over 500 people. I was one of the last people in line. And what was really funny is the casting call producer like hated my pitch. I could see like in their face, they did not like anything I was saying. But at the end, I pulled out my book and I was like, and I've written this SAT prep book. This was my first book. And they couldn't believe that I had written a book and that my face was on it, et cetera. His eyes just lit up. He's like, can I have a book for my nephew who's going to be taking the SAT?
Oh, wow.
And literally like a week later, I got a call to be on the show and they flew me out to Los Angeles and it was really cool. But that all being said is like, you never know the output of your work, what it's going to result in, right? Like, I don't know what this new book is going to result in the future. Like, is it going to result in something similar to Shark Tank or bigger than Shark Tank? And so that's why I think for content producers, whether you're an author, whether you're a podcaster, whether you're big on social media, you just have to put it out in the world and the results will be there. But kind of long story short on Shark Tank, ended up going on the show, had an incredible experience. If you watch my episode of Shark Tank, none of the sharks really liked that I was both a medical doctor and an entrepreneur. But Mark Cuban ended up coming in at the last second, offering me a deal for, I think it was $250,000 for 20% equity. We ended up closing the deal. He's been a partner for like 8 years. We've grown, the company has 10x'd since Shark Tank. And the exposure in front of, 10 million Americans on primetime television for 15 minutes was invaluable. And it was really, really just a life-changing experience.
Amazing. Speaking of life-changing experiences, how's the physical transformation been a vehicle for you most recently?
Oh man, yeah, I feel, the best that I ever have. What was really funny too, I won't say that I'm not vain anymore because I did my book marketing and photo shoot and videos, and I would say the headshots look like I'm 10 years younger. Like they look way better than the headshots that I did like 8 years ago. And, it's just amazing how much younger, not only you feel, but you look after, and then mentally, I feel like I'm sharper than ever. Everything has just been incredible. And I have, you and RNT to thank for that.
Amazing. I saw your previous headshots and I did want, you could definitely see that. Might need to do it before, and after on that.
Yeah, we should show those two. Yeah, the previous versus the new headshot. It's funny because I'm like 10 years older, but I think I look younger. So for anyone who's vain out there like me, if you want your headshots to look better, join RNT.
Amazing. You're wearing the suit the fitted suit that you've got for the book launch. The book launch coming out on the 6th of March, is it?
March 3rd, Sunday, March 3rd. Yeah.
Sunday, March 3rd.
Yeah, Sunday, March 3rd, 3 p.m. Pacific. It might be a little bit late in the UK. It might be like 11 or 12, but we'll keep a recording for everyone, et cetera. So, wearing the suit. I fit the suit better than ever thanks to the fitness transformation. I'm glad we did the fitness transformation right before I had all this launch stuff because I did not want to be fluffy during this huge launch that we're doing, et cetera. Yeah.
Amazing. Any final words for the listeners?
I would say, recognize, I think one of the things that I underestimated when I joined RNT is how much of an impact the fitness and lifestyle solution this would have on the rest of my life. And I know we've touched on it a little bit, but in terms of just increasing my productivity, my success in my business and career. And I think there are a lot of physiological factors that contribute to that. There are a lot of organizational factors. Once you get more organized with your health, you get more organized with your business and your life and your personal relationships, et cetera. So I think, if you're thinking about signing up for RNT, definitely do it, because you'll see so many other benefits that go beyond just diet and training.
Amazing. Well, it's been a pleasure working with you for the last couple of years. It's been cool seeing you go through all the different phases, and now I'm excited for you to live the lifestyle solution that you've always dreamed of. So thanks for coming on the show, Shaan, again. And for listeners, make sure you check out his brand new book. We'll put all the links in the show notes so you can check it out.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, Akash. And yeah, if the listeners want to follow me or find out more, they can go directly to prepexpert.com. That's my company's website. Find out about the book, the courses, the book launch, and all that good stuff.
Amazing.